You know that feeling that shows up around 3 in the afternoon? It is not exactly sleep, it is something heavier than that. It is as if the entire body has absorbed the weight of the day and no longer knows where to put it. The legs feel heavy, sometimes swollen. The ankles seem larger than they were in the morning. The shoulders drop. The mind becomes slow, foggy, and you look at the clock and there are still hours ahead. Perhaps you have already noticed that this feeling has become more frequent over the years, that the body that used to hold up through the entire day without that kind of weight now starts asking for a break in the middle of the afternoon in a way that cannot be ignored. And perhaps someone has already told you that this is normal for your age, that it is just the body aging, and that you need to learn to live with it. I do not believe that. And the traditions I am going to share today did not believe it either. What Eastern traditions identified thousands of years ago is not the body failing, it is the body accumulating what has not been moved during the day. Fluids that stagnated, vital warmth that diminished, energy that stopped circulating. And there is a specific cup prepared with 3 simple ingredients that has been used for generations at exactly this moment of the day to give back to the body the lightness that the day has been taking away hour by hour. Stay until topic 5 because I will reveal a mistake with the amount of ginger that most people make, and that turns a lightness tonic into a drink that irritates instead of relieves. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from, city, country, anywhere in the world. Click subscribe now and turn on the notification bell and let us begin. When I lived in the monastery, one of the first things I learned was not about meditation or scriptures. It was about the rhythm of the day. The oldest masters taught that the day has phases, not just morning, afternoon, and night, but specific energetic transitions that affect the body and mind in ways that most people never learn to recognize. The morning phase is yang, ascending, expansive, full of movement. It is when the body is most willing, most receptive, most capable of absorbing and transforming. After midday, that yang energy begins to give way, and around 3 in the afternoon, a yin phase enters, more internal, more quiet, more receptive. In that transition, the fluids that circulated freely in the morning tend to stagnate, especially in the extremities. The legs become heavier, not because you are tired, but because the energy that kept them in motion has diminished. The ancient masters called this phenomenon the stiffness of the afternoon, the accumulation of everything the body absorbed during the day that was not completely processed. Fluids that stopped, heat that settled in the shoulders and neck, energy that lost its direction and pooled in the places where gravity always wins. I remember arriving at 3 in the afternoon in the early years of my practice feeling exactly that, a weight that was not only physical, but as if the very air around me had become denser. My master said the body was not failing, it was accumulating, and everything that accumulates needs to be moved. The Buddhist tradition I learned teaches that the body is a system of flows, not just of air and visible movement, but of energy, of warmth, of subtle fluids that connect each part to the whole. When those flows are free, the body feels light, present, alive. When they are blocked or stagnant, that specific feeling arises that goes beyond physical tiredness, a heaviness that does not pass with rest, a stiffness that does not yield with stretching, a slowness that does not respond to the effort of concentration. I spent years observing that pattern in myself and in the people around me. And what I learned is that this afternoon stiffness does not worsen only with age. It worsens with lack of attention. When you ignore the signals your body sends at 3 in the afternoon, when you push through with more coffee or willpower, you are compressing what is already compressed and adding more layers to the accumulation the day has built. When you respond with what the body is really asking for, movement, reactivation of vital warmth, a conscious pause, what was stagnant begins to flow again. And it is exactly for that the tonic I learned in my tradition was created. The first time I saw my master prepare the afternoon tonic, what caught my attention was not the aroma, it was the color. That intense red spreading through the water as if the plant were opening from the inside out. I asked him what it was, and he simply said, "It is the flower that opens the pathways." It took me years to fully understand what he meant. Hibiscus was used for generations in traditions from North Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, precisely for the phenomenon we discussed in the previous topic. The traditions that used it observed that it promoted a feeling of lightness and fluidity that other plants could not replicate with the same speed and the same gentleness. It was not just the flavor, it was the combined effect of the aroma, the color, and the natural compounds that hibiscus releases in hot water that created a complete sensory experience of opening and movement. I began to understand the power of this plant when, after weeks of drinking the tonic at 3 in the afternoon, I noticed that I was arriving at the end of the day with a lightness in my feet and legs that simply did not exist before. It was not dramatic, it was gradual. It was as if something that had been dammed up had found a way out. My master smiled when I told him and said, "The flower does not push, it invites, and the body responds to the invitation when it is ready to listen." There is also something about the color of hibiscus that traditions always recognized as part of the power of the plant. That intense red you see expanding in the cup while the infusion happens is itself a signal of renewal for the tired eyes and mind of the afternoon. Always serve the hibiscus tonic in a container where you can see the color, a transparent glass cup or a white ceramic mug. The visual experience is part of the ritual and part of the benefit. When your eyes meet that intense red in the middle of a gray afternoon of work or a monotonous afternoon at home, something changes before the first sip. It is as if the color tells the nervous system that something different is happening now, that the rhythm has changed, that there is space for lightness to enter. I began noticing this in the older people in my community who started using the tonic. It was not only the legs that became lighter after a few weeks, it was the expression on the face at 3 in the afternoon that started to change. There was less of that furrowed brow of someone pushing against tiredness. There was more of that serene stillness of someone who has found a way to cross the rest of the day with some grace. The flower that opens the pathways. My master knew what he was saying. It just took time for me to be ready to fully understand. There is a teaching from my tradition that has been engraved in my memory since the early years in the monastery. My master used to say that the fire that warms is not the same as the fire that burns. And he said this especially when he spoke about cinnamon, because cinnamon was the ingredient that surprised me most in the afternoon tonic. I expected hibiscus to be the protagonist, that color, that aroma, that visual presence. But it was the cinnamon that changed the tonic from a pleasant drink to a real experience of renewal. There is a very specific reason why cinnamon is an afternoon ingredient and not a morning one. The morning has its own warmth, the energy that emerges with the light, the willingness that a restorative night of sleep produced. But after lunch, especially after 60, that inner warmth diminishes in a way that goes far beyond digestion. The Buddhist tradition calls that vital warmth Agni, the inner fire that transforms, that processes, that keeps the body and mind in motion. When Agni weakens in the middle of the afternoon, that characteristic slowness of 3 o'clock appears. The mind that processes more slowly, the body that requires more effort to move, the motivation that seems to have slipped somewhere you cannot reach. Cinnamon rekindles that fire in a gentle and sustained way, not with the explosive force of coffee that creates a peak and a crash, but with a progressive warmth that expands from the center of the body toward the extremities, arriving exactly where hibiscus has already begun to open the pathways. I remember feeling that warmth for the first time moving through my chest and arms about 10 minutes after finishing the cup. It was not intense, it was soft, like when you put a blanket over your shoulders on a cool afternoon and the entire body exhales in relief. The cinnamon I learned to use in my tradition is true Ceylon cinnamon, softer, sweeter, with a more delicate aroma than the common cinnamon found in most supermarkets. When I visited Buddhist communities in Sri Lanka years later, Ceylon cinnamon was present in almost every afternoon ritual I witnessed, always in small amounts, always combined with other ingredients, never alone. A small pinch, no more than a quarter teaspoon, is enough to produce the vital fire effect we are seeking. More than that, and the warmth stops being comforting and becomes dominant, covering the flavor of the hibiscus and creating a drink that overheats instead of rebalancing. Cinnamon in the lightness tonic is not the protagonist. It is the fuel that sustains what hibiscus initiated. And it is exactly here that the amount matters, something I will go deeper into in topic 5, because the most common mistake is not with the cinnamon, it is with the ginger that comes alongside it. One of the questions I receive most often when I share the afternoon lightness tonic is, can I drink it cold? And the answer I learned from my tradition is yes, with one detail that makes all the difference between a cold version that amplifies the benefits of the ritual and a cold version that works against them. Let me tell you what I learned. In the monastery, the tonic was always served warm, never too hot, never cold. There was a wisdom in that, which my master explained this way. A very hot drink in the afternoon adds heat to a body that is already overheated by the effort of the day. A very cold drink shocks the system that is trying to reorganize itself. The warm temperature is the middle temperature, the one the body receives without resistance, that enters gently and begins to work without creating an additional adjustment. I followed that teaching for many years, but when I began sharing the tonic with older people in American communities, I realized that the American summer and the heat that many people over 60 feel more intensely created a different situation. A warm drink on a 95-degree day can be the last thing the body can receive with pleasure. And if you cannot receive it with pleasure, you cannot receive it with presence. And without presence, half the benefit of the ritual is lost. So I learned to adapt. The slightly cooled version, not so cold it has melting ice, but cooled to a comfortable temperature, preserves everything that matters in the tonic, while delivering the relief the body is asking for in that moment. The preparation ritual remains the same regardless of the final serving temperature. You prepare the tea hot, with the water at the right temperature, with the correct steeping time, with the attention and presence the moment calls for. The difference is only in what you do afterward. For the warm version, which continues to be my personal preference and the one I practice every day, prepare the tea and let it rest uncovered for 5 minutes after the complete infusion. For the cooled version, prepare the tea with double the concentration of hibiscus, let it cool at room temperature for 20 minutes, and then put it in the refrigerator. Never add ice directly to the hot tea. The abrupt temperature shock breaks part of the hibiscus compounds before they can be absorbed. And always serve in a container where you can see the color, a transparent glass cup or a white ceramic mug. The visual experience of the intense red color is part of the ritual and part of the benefit. When I serve my tonic every day at 3 in the afternoon and see that red in the cup, something in me already begins to release before the first sip. The body has learned over years of practice that color is the signal that the burden of the day is about to be lightened. And that learning is itself one of the most valuable gifts the ritual offers. The moment I promised from the beginning has arrived, and I need to be completely honest with you, because this was a mistake I myself made for months before I understood what was wrong. When I began preparing the afternoon lightness tonic on my own, after years of watching my master, I thought I understood all the details. Hibiscus, cinnamon, ginger, simple. But there was something that never came out right. The drink I prepared did not have the lightness that my masters did. It had a spiciness that dominated everything, a burning sensation that stayed in my stomach instead of dissolving, and I arrived at the end of the cup feeling more discomfort than when I started. It took me a long time to realize the problem was the ginger. Not the ginger itself. Ginger is an extraordinary ingredient that perfectly complements the hibiscus and cinnamon in this tonic. The problem was the amount. I was using fresh ginger in an amount equivalent to what I would use in a food recipe, a generous slice, a piece 2 or 3 centimeters long. For a short infusion tea like the lightness tonic, that amount is 3 to 4 times more than necessary. Fresh ginger releases its compounds much more intensely than in any culinary preparation, and in a hot infusion, that release happens exponentially with each additional minute. The result is a drink dominated by the spiciness of the ginger that completely covers the floral flavor of the hibiscus and the gentle warmth of the cinnamon, and that irritates the throat and stomach in a way that is exactly the opposite of what the lightness tonic should do. The correct amount of fresh ginger for the afternoon lightness tonic is 1 thin slice, approximately a 1/4 inch thick, no more than that. When I learned this from my master and remade the tonic with that amount, the difference was immediate and complete. It was as if I had finally heard the drink the way it was meant to be heard. Hibiscus in front, floral and vibrant. Cinnamon right behind, soft and comforting. And ginger at the back, almost imperceptible as a flavor, but completely present as warmth. That warmth you feel moving into the extremities in the 10 minutes after finishing the cup. If you use powdered ginger, the correct amount is a very small pinch, less than 1/8 of a teaspoon. And the steeping time for the ginger also matters. Add the thin slice together with the hibiscus, but remove the ginger after 5 minutes, even if the total infusion lasts 7 or 8. That extracts what is needed without extracting the excess. If you have already tried this tonic and did not enjoy it, if you found it too spicy, irritating, different from what you expected, there is a very good chance the problem was the amount of ginger. Try again with the right pinch before giving up. The difference between the tonic with too much ginger and the tonic with the correct amount is so great that it seems like a completely different drink. My master was right when he said that in preparing a ritual tea, more is never more. Sometimes less is exactly what transforms a common drink into an experience of true lightness. You made it here, and that means something, and this teaching resonated with what you already knew through your own body's experience. That 3 o'clock feeling is not weakness. It is not age winning over you. It is not something you simply need to accept and push through with more coffee and more willpower. It is the body speaking, saying that the fluids need to move, that the vital fire has dimmed and needs to be rekindled, that there is a space in this day for a pause that is not just rest, but renewal. The hibiscus will open the pathways and move what has become stagnant. The cinnamon will rekindle the fire that lunch put out. The ginger, in the right amount, which you now know, will complement that warmth and carry it to the extremities where the weight had been accumulating. And the ritual of preparing that cup, of stopping, of watching that red color expand, of holding the cup in both hands and breathing in the aroma before the first sip, is itself a message you are sending to your nervous system. A message that says that the doing mode has paused for a moment and that the being mode has space to exist. I have practiced this every day for more years than I can count. And I can tell you honestly that the moment I look forward to most in my day is not the morning and not the evening. It is 3 in the afternoon when I stop everything, go quietly to the kitchen, and prepare that red cup that my master taught me to make. Start today, not tomorrow, not next week, today, at 3 in the afternoon when the weight appears. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from and whether you already knew any of these 3 ingredients before today. Share this video with someone you love who you know also faces that afternoon heaviness. Press the like button if this teaching touched something in you. Click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. May your afternoon today be lighter than all the others.